You did not just happen to be in this place. You have been brought here by an inner force that is ancient, tenacious, and softly radiant. Not the part of you that checks your phone or performs a web search, but the part that goes deeper and can feel the beginnings of shift long before it becomes obvious. You can start to recall what that part of you has always known as you go through these words. Maybe you've been feeling like everything is falling apart lately. You no longer recognize the familiar, and the familiar has become strange. Deteriorated buildings crumble, and the reasoning you once relied on no longer applies. But think about this. Such disorder is usually not meaningless in the symbolic language of the mind. Rather of signaling the end, what if the disorientation you're experiencing is the quake that precedes a fresh start? What if the chaos is sacred, of a required disintegration for the emergence of something more genuine? The unconscious mind, as Carl Jung has pointed out, does not provide literal explanations, but rather uses symbols and signals. It may be subtle, almost like a whisper, before a major change occurs. Emotions rush without reason, patterns repeat, and dreams stay. The warnings will intensify until you start to let go of things that were never designed to support you. And that is if you refuse to pay attention. The fact that so many people took the collapse the wrong way is the true tragedy. Disappointment, unfortunate events, and poor timing are the terms used to describe it. Just before the realization, they dull the pain or give up on the journey. However, your presence here indicates that you are paying attention. Even if your rational mind has not processed the signals, it indicates that your subconscious is, and therein lies the starting point of change. This chaos may appear to be the start of a deeper order, but I'll show you 7 telltale signals that your life is actually opening up rather than collapsing in the following pages. You can feel your spirit setting out on its journey if you can identify with even 3 of these indicators. A new chapter in your life is not about to begin. Rather, it is subtly and powerfully developing within you right now. Come on, we can get started. When you start to doubt everything you always believed to be true, it's a sign that your soul is getting ready to enter its most glorious season. You can't accept what was once definite, not because you're rebelling, but because of something far more sacred, a still, small voice inside you. Do not feel alone if you have just begun to question not only your beliefs, but also your relationships, aspirations, and even your identity itself. Your name is being summoned, like a seed that cracks open beneath the surface before it ever reaches the light. Something inside has already started its descent. This sort of internal disintegration is an initiation, not a catastrophe, Carl Jung realized. When you start to become someone new, the old mental frameworks start to fall apart. On the inside, tectonic plates are moving, even when nothing has changed on the outside. What you formerly believed in, the habits you used to follow, things that you used to be passionate about suddenly seem pointless. This pain is not an issue that needs fixing. Rather, it is the holy work of giving birth. Little by little, the universe's innate knowledge has started to chip away at the illusions that are holding you back from reaching your full potential. What appears to be a lack of understanding is, in reality, just the beginning of insight. You are being invited to wake up from the dream of your imagined self. Indeed, this disintegration can evoke a sense of mortality, the departure from what is known, the dissolution of identities molded to appease others, the passing on of beliefs that were passed down but never chosen, and the realization of aspirations that were never truly yours. This death, however, is symbolic and does not constitute devastation. A break is breaking. You're being cleansed, not punished. Your spirit is yearning for freedom and is no longer content to remain trapped. Things that used to feel familiar, including people or routines, may now seem strange. You start to feel less and less like yourself when the mask you wore for love, safety, and belonging slips. Yes, there's loss involved, but there's also liberation. Rather of being broken, you are liberating yourself. At this sacred confusion, the roles begin to dissolve. Who am I really at my core when faced with such challenges? In search of significance rather than validation, what am I seeking? These are gateways, not just ideas. And once you cross those thresholds, a whole new language emerges from the depths of existence. Symptoms manifest, coincidences deepen. A book shows up, a complete stranger tells you what you need to hear, or a dream makes you realize something. Confirmations, not coincidences, these are. Something better and more genuine is merging with your inner world. True change, according to Jung, starts when we have the courage to hear the still, small voice within, when we let go of our false identity and let our soul soar. So have faith in the falling, have faith in the pain. This is just the beginning. There will be more to come. Even though you don't know what's ahead, take heart in the fact that you're already becoming your most genuine self by questioning everything. You are currently experiencing its awakening, thus it is not some faraway future. Second, though it may not be immediately obvious, you may start to experience an increasing distance from the person you were before. For Jungians, this represents the metaphorical demise of outmoded identities and the shedding of the old identity. Even if it doesn't break the bank or cause a ruckus, it's still a sure sign that you're starting a fresh, genuine chapter in your life. This disconnection usually creeps up slowly, like a hushed murmur, that something that was once thrilling, satisfying, or meaningful now seems pointless. Things like once enjoyed hobbies, once intimate talks, and formerly grounding habits now leave you feeling hollow. You remain unharmed while you survey your surroundings and realize that your internal landscape differs from the actual one. Feels like you're looking at the world via different lenses. Things that were once glistening with importance. It seems like it came from another era now. You don't feel resentment, but rather a subtle acceptance of the inevitable loss of the people, places, and routines that shaped your emotional world in the past. Your physique, your breath, and the stillness all give it away. The past is letting go, and this space is holy, not icy or cynical. A sign from the depths of your being that you are prepared to evolve. Jung argues that this disentanglement is an integral aspect of individuation, the process through which an individual breaks free of the false beliefs propagated by their family, culture, and ego. What seems like confusion is really just clarity masquerading as uncertainty. Things that used to excite you are now completely uninteresting. You start to feel like you're wearing a social mask, expectations, and a professional title that you'd rather not wear anymore. Yes, you will grieve. You will lament in a peculiar way the aspects of yourself that were once very real but now seem like fictional characters. Rest assured, this loss is holy. It is the agony that creates room for spiritual rebirth. For the soul to evolve, it must let go. Here, further inquiries emerge. In the absence of these responsibilities, who am I? In this moment, what is important? I am starting to sense the truth deep within, but how can I live a life that values it? Even if you don't get answers right away, asking questions is a step into something more meaningful and profound. Even if you're not trying to isolate yourself, you could discover that spending time alone helps your spirit make way for something better. Quietness, contemplation, and ease may be what you seek. A calm, steady voice inside you begins to compete with the din of the outside world. You are not lost. You are shedding, that voice says. This breaking away from the past is not an indication of failure, but rather the subtle revolution that comes before your metamorphosis. You are not broken. You are becoming. Embracing the sacred act of release reveals the most beautiful form of yourself, not clinging to what was. When you release what doesn't serve you anymore, you make room for the life that is still to come. Have faith in the space. Have faith in the disconnection. A significant development is imminent. The third indicator of an inner awakening is when you start to doubt the importance of things you used to think were crucial. Things that used to hold you down, like titles, accomplishments, and other people's approval, start to fade away like morning mist. The rapidity with which your priorities change could surprise you. All of a sudden, the things that spark your ambition appear so far away. Your once enthusiastic voices now sound weak. This is the gradual dawning of understanding, not a setback. Whenever the soul starts to reject the group script, when the self starts to whisper through the holes in the persona. Carl Jung frequently spoke about this moment. Though hardly audible, that murmur is there nonetheless. Your perspective on life starts to shift, and it's not to a higher, but a deeper level. A curtain has parted, and what was once invisible is now plainly visible. You are no longer defined by your financial aspirations, even though they may persist in your subconscious. You are no longer defined by the admiration of others, though it may still come. Questions such, what truly feeds my spirit? What gives me a sense of aliveness? Aren't frivolous. They're sacred concerns, and they usually stem from dissatisfaction rather than contentment. A part of you realizes that material success and personal achievement are no longer the exclusive measures of success. What matters most is the quality of your relationships and the depth of your life experiences. At first, this re-examination of meaning may seem confusing. When you are no longer grounded in your old ideas, you may experience the disorienting sensation of floating aimlessly in uncharted seas. But this meandering isn't accidental. It's your soul's method of leading you to greater realities. Rather than drifting aimlessly, you're letting go of a compass that is no longer guiding you to your true north. If you're lucky, you'll find yourself led down previously unanticipated avenues, where you'll unearth long-lost interests, aspirations, and aspects of yourself that have been dormant. Authenticity is being called upon by the soul. Everything starts to change, even relationships at this point. Conversations that used to fill you up now feel empty, and certain relationships feel forced or superficial. Not because no one loves you. Rather, you may be experiencing feelings of isolation due to the fact that you are growing and changing, and not everyone is destined to walk this path with you. Even though it's unpleasant, being alone makes room for fresh resonance to emerge. When you shift the pace of your inner transformation, like a drumbeat, people who are a good fit for your new energy start to show up, sometimes discreetly. The process of questioning is more like the dismantling of illusions than a collapse. No, what you're really doing is reawakening to the true you that lies beneath all that background noise. You are no longer enchanted, even when the world tries to reimpose its expectations on you. You have grown weary of the allure of illusion and are yearning for the substance of reality. Here you are at the starting point of alignment, a life that is more about reflecting your soul than about surviving. You will own it, but it will not be easy or quick. Also, once you start down this road, no amount of pretending will ever make you feel at home. When this happens, it's a sign that your greatest chapter is still ahead of you, growing strong and silently inside you. As if from deep within, the fourth sign materializes. Your intuition and you develop a strong, unshakable bond. Rather of being overt or imposed, it seeps into your mind like a soft river, leading you to an indescribable reality. When reason fails, this internal guide will tell you what to do. Not in your head, but at the core of your being, you start to feel like something has stirred. The voice of intuition gets more clear as one draws nearer to the self, which Jung frequently described as the entirety of the psyche. This exceeds rational thought. It is not just speculation. Things have changed to the point where decisions feel more than like a dilemma. You have an uncanny ability to read the energy in a room the second you step foot in it. Something about you tells you which way to go as you stand at a crossroads. The subconscious is communicating with you in its long-forgotten language. This is not a hallucination. The voice of your inner guide, your intuition, has been there with you from the start, patiently observing and waiting for you to calm down enough to listen. Initially, you can experience it in bursts, a subtle prod, an abrupt epiphany, or a sensation in your chest. It has always been talking, but you were too preoccupied to hear it until you start to believe it. When the foundations of your previous identity start to crumble, this awakening usually starts during times of inner turmoil. As your thoughts race to regain composure, your intuition starts to swell in the quiet that lies underlying all the din. Resonance, rather than force, is its method of leading. There are people, places, and decisions that you find yourself pulled to for reasons you don't fully understand. Your inner compass, which has been hidden under a weight of duty and anxiety, has started to reorient with the path your spirit has always intended, and it feels like coming home without understanding why. Life starts to fall into place around you more precisely the more you pay attention to this innate wisdom. You now understand the function of patterns that perplex you before. Even the most aloof individuals suddenly become approachable. The once necessary analysis now appears to be self-evident. Now that you're not dealing with uncertainty, your mind is much quieter. Once you establish contact with your innermost being, you will be able to perceive things clearly. Since you have found it within, you no longer seek clarity from the outside world. This doesn't mean it gets easier, but it does mean it becomes more accurate. You learn to have faith in the unseen force that is guiding you ahead, even in the face of uncertainty. Your steps are guided by a subtle self-assurance. The emptiness between ideas, the feeling in your chest, and the unexplainable calm that comes when something is correct start to get your attention. Doing so unlocks the door to a life that is more effortless and genuine. Your innate ability to trust your gut feelings has been around for a long time. Once you start listening, you'll realize that you're never really alone when it comes to making choices. It's the sacred language of the soul. The wisdom that resides inside you transcends mere thoughts and fears. When you dare to follow it, the road ahead does more than just show you the way. It unveils who you are. An inner flame starts to flicker, one that isn't satisfied with conforming to expectations or even existing. Rather, it arouses a profound and holy yearning for metamorphosis. You no longer see self-improvement as a passing fad, but as an absolute need for your very survival. When you stop seeking answers from the things that used to fill you up, the things that used to satisfy you start to feel empty. Your awareness expands in this way, yearning for deeper, more authentic experiences. This longing, as you gain more insight into who you are, the masks you've been hiding start to come off. At this crossroads, you come to terms with the fact that some people were more reflective of your stagnation than your becoming. The ways in which you used to accept dishonesty masquerading as affection, bewilderment as allegiance, and emotional instability as the norms start to become clear. Not because the patterns themselves have altered, but because all of a sudden, you find yourself unfamiliar with them. Because you change your frequency, you're now unbeatable by them. Something simpler, more in tune with your evolving self, is starting to resonating with you. This development is not the result of animosity, but of new information. Rather than fury, it is motivated by understanding. This is the profound understanding that your essence is priceless, that your tranquility is immutable, and that your emotions were never intended to be a repository for criticism, blame, or disregard. You start to sense a subtle conviction growing inside you. You can stop trying to keep up appearances of peace by apologizing, expanding too much, or contracting too much. Rather, you start prioritizing yourself. Not because you're selfish, but because you respect the truth that's being shown to you. According to Jung, this is the process of letting go of your false self, or the identity that has held you captive to the expectations and roles set by other people. We are not betraying other people when we listen to our souls and walk away from things that drain us. We're just getting back to who we are. A new sense of clarity starts to emerge as you separate yourself from the toxic, the misaligned, and the emotionally unstable. You develop keener perception and heightened sensitivity, and you start to value genuineness above familiarity, honesty above validation, and genuine presence above masking. Even when they are essential, endings always bring sadness, since letting go is so painful. It is a sacred loss, nevertheless. This is the sorrow of a spirit that has given up on the idea of belonging in exchange for the false promise of connection. Something else starts to sprout up in its stead. When a hole opens up inside of you, life starts filling it with people who mirror your growth, who understand your inner language, who bring you comfort, who inspire you, and who tell you the truth. This is emancipation, not collapse. This marks the beginning of alignment and the end of tangling. What feels different when it finally arrives is when you release your grip on what drains you and make room for what raises you. Is soothing, resonant, and not chaotic or loud. This is the type of bond that respects your journey, acknowledges your development, and nurtures your soul. What you're actually losing are illusions, not individuals. When you disrupt cycles, you're not severing relationships. This is merely a redirect, not a rejection. Your external environment starts to reflect the change in your internal landscape as it becomes more honest. Instead of starting with arrival, the finest part of your life starts with release. And you're good to go now. Sign number 7. You begin to sense a profound and a discernible distancing from all that was important to you before, but no longer touches your spirit. It creeps up on you slowly at first, like a light breeze that changes the air just before a storm. Things, places, habits, and ideas that were once crucial start to fade from memory. They no longer hold the same emotional weight. Rather of rejecting them out of resentment or remorse, you're being drawn within to something more significant, authentic, and in harmony. At its core, you are experiencing a subtle alchemy that is releasing attachments that don't resonate with your evolving self. Rather than rejection, this detachment signifies liberation. As a result, the spirit is able to let go of the protective covering it once needed. You may have noticed that talks that used to be full of humor now seem staged. Things that used to make you happy suddenly seem hollow. The very tone of your own ideas starts to shift. Even in familiar places, I feel alien. At dawn, relationships start to fade away like a mist. Even while you're sad about the changes, you also recognize their sacredness. According to Jung, the mind develops by integration rather than addition, and occasionally, in order to accomplish integration, it is necessary to subtract. Any pain you feel is a necessary part of the cleansing process, not a punishment. Old rituals may no longer bring you joy. Your relationships may feel strained, and you may even wonder why your dreams have changed. These inquiries are indicators of progress, not setbacks. In order to be filled again, you are being drained. Not because it was worthless, but because it fulfilled its role. What once characterized you now fades into oblivion. By shedding your superficial identity, you are getting back to something deeper and more permanent. The peculiar thing is that although there may not be any outward changes, the terrain is actually shifting. Old worries let go, and old responsibilities become less shackling. Things that used to captivate you with a sense of urgency no longer do. A new presence arises in this quiet detachment, a more profound truth that does not yell but murmurs, a knowing that does not demand explanation but demands to be followed. Reclaiming what rightfully belongs to you is the goal here, not evasion. There is nothing you are evading. Rather, it is your own self-return. And it is in that coming back that you start to see that freedom is more about having alignment than about having no responsibility at all. Your desire to be present and connected with others has transformed into a yearning for completeness. Even as you speak, anything that breaks your spirit or cloud your vision is disappearing. Pay heed to this transition. Lament it if you feel the need, but don't fight it. You make room for what is coming in when you give in to what is going out. Herein is the enigma of the threshold, that liminal region between existences and identities. This is more of a holy unfolding than a loss. It prepares the way for new life to emerge. This message has reached you at this time because you are. I get a feeling something has started to shift within. There's been a genuine transformation. Your old identity is fading away, and what is emerging from beneath is more than simply an improved version of you. Whoever recalls what it's like to live in perfect harmony with one's spirit is the most authentic and complete. Have faith in this break. It won't last. It is the unspoken start of your journey towards becoming your full potential. Once you let go of the past and allow the future to come into your soul, what happens is simply remarkable. When you stop fighting the urge to change and start dancing to the beat of your own inner metamorphosis, what changes? Coming up from the depths is a sacred awakening, which is more than just a change of scenery. It's a deep reorganization of your inner reality. You are expanding the scope of your awareness, not just making changes to your life. Peace and clarity are no longer conditional on your ability to exert control. You are moving into harmony with a more fundamental truth. Not only is this the next chapter in your story, but it is also a subtle transition into a whole new way of being. The signs have been etched into your days, even if you haven't fully recognized them yet. They convey your growing reluctance to betray your own spirit, your weariness with illusion, and your yearning for significance. These are more than fleeting emotions. They're calls to action, invitations to stop surviving and start living, with purpose, grace, and authenticity, with all of your senses engaged and your heart completely open. Your old self's framework starts to crumble at this very instant, and a new, more authentic version of yourself starts to take shape. Real change doesn't happen when we put on a mask, but rather when we accept ourselves completely, flaws and all, as Carl Jung pointed out. Being present is more important than being flawless for the road ahead. Being courageous is not going to be necessary, but being truthful will be. Finding your best stage of life doesn't mean looking outside of yourself. It means quietly delving inward, where knowledge is found not in solutions but in awareness, in pausing, in having the guts to let go of what doesn't serve you anymore and saying yes to the mystery that calls to you. Remain open, gentle, and inquiring. What lies ahead is about becoming more than just more. It's about becoming more authentic. Something inside you is getting ready to take the next step, and you're not on this journey alone if what you have read has awakened your spirit. Join me as I guide you on a path toward the unknown, toward the subtle beauty of your fully awakened self. Soon, in conversation, in shared moments, and in contemplation, we will meet again. Until then, pay attention to the signals, have faith in your own transformation, and understand that this is not just a continuation of the past. Rather, it is a new beginning, a coming full circle, a deep reunion with the truth that has been waiting patiently inside you the whole time. If you felt moved by this message, continue reading. Keep watching because the following video is going to lead you further onto the path of recovery, development, and awakening. Who knows? It could be the spiritual breakthrough you've been seeking all along. Now is the time to tap into it. Subscribe, enable notifications, and become a part of a community dedicated to truth, transformation, and genuine personal growth. There are those who share your journey. In the following film, we'll meet again and keep on evolving into the perfect match we were born to be.